What's up, all my crypto passive income lovers? I brought my man Ross with me here, who is a genius in his own right. I'm sure you can see right behind Ross. He's got all his evil notes on his whiteboard, and we wanted to talk DeFi because both of us are agency owners, and so part of what attracts us to DeFi in particular is like we just don't have the bandwidth to be full-time traders. I have friends who do that. They do very well for themselves. I see the benefits to it, but we're out there, serving people in the world. And, occasionally we get our business right and we have some monies to put away and we'd like to multiply them in the cryptos. Firstly, anyways, Ross, I wanted to say you're awesome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, you bet.
And we were talking a little bit off air. And one of the things that I love about you in general is like, for real, anytime I get a WhatsApp message from you, like there's an intelligent question incoming that's going to make me think. I took some notes here because we actually posted this a little bit in the group. But one of the first questions you asked is something about people boasting that it is immune to market fluctuations and you can get close to 1% a day with DeFi. Do you just want to, if you don't mind, just elaborating a little bit on your thoughts on what you were kind of wondering about? Maybe I can do my best to kind of answer, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I've got another friend. Well, I've got a handful of friends that are in crypto, right? And this one, she posts quite frequently. She's been in crypto a long time. I knew that. But over the last, I'm going to say 3 or 4 months, she's been posting. And I know what the market's been doing over the last little while. And she's like, mark it up, mark it down. I don't care. I'm making 1% a day. He's like, going up, going down. And she keeps DeFi life and DeFi. This is crypto. This is DeFi, all the hashtag. And it's always, she's like 1% a day or just over 1% a day. And just keeps, all of it is about, I don't care if the market's up or down, I'm DeFiing at 1% a day.
Yeah.
And she's got a couple little kids, a dog, husband. I know she doesn't have hours to spend. I'm guessing from the messages, it seems like she's putting maybe an hour or so in there. So yeah. I'm like, dang, 1% is great return. I know her lifestyle. She tries to keep things passive. I got to understand DeFi better.
Yeah, I feel you. When I actually, like, just to give you guys a little bit of background on DeFi, like I've read before I got into the crypto space, a lot of like kind of old school traditional investment books that are largely about like how to manage the stock market and things like that. And I remember there was a Tony Robbins investment book, and it's he just compiles like some of the best investment minds, and the book is like less kind of like Tony Robbins rah and more just practical investment advice from people who been doing it a long time. And there's a story in there that always caught my attention. There's this FedEx or postal worker, somebody like he delivered mail, and he managed to save like $25,000. And what he did with his 24 or 25 grand is he put it into an index fund, which models the top 500 companies in the stock market. And he just left it there for like 30 or 40 years. And he walked away with something like 1.8, 1.9 million off of his 25 grand. And right, the first year he might have and the stock market obviously has some ups and downs, but 10% a year compounded. At first, he made $2,500 in a year. And then it was a little more and a little more and a little more. And his interest and stuff started compounding. And especially in those later years, it really starts to make a difference. And the thing with DeFi is you have the ability to do what used to take 40 years to do it in 4. And like you said, you have friends just putting aside 1% a day. That may sound like a small amount if you're like, hey, what's 1%? But that's 365% a year. If you can maintain that for 4 straight years, like you're hitting those kind of numbers, and you're mostly doing that passively in the background. So that's a really big key. The other thing too, I've noticed, and this is just my experience with it, I'm not saying this is the only way, is when you get into like day trading, there's a like trying to time the market at the top and the bottom, which I'm not saying can't be done, but it's hard. Like real experts who follow this stuff day and night in the stock market have been trying that for like 30, 40 years. And even with sophisticated algorithms and those things, like it's really hard to find out the exact time to buy and to sell. And you got to really, in the crypto markets, like they can change hourly. So you got to like really watch what's going on. As we're with DeFi, what I like is that it can be plugging away in the background. And what I wanted to share with my experience, like some of the stuff I do, like with Bitcoin, whenever Bitcoin has a drop, because I've acquired more of it, I don't even really notice the value drop. Like, you know, if I got 10% more and it falls 10%, then I'm still at where I started. So you tend to not feel the lows as much, and the highs compound even more. If it goes up 50% and I got 10% more, then it's more like 60, 65% up that you notice it. So that's definitely like a real phenomenon, is I notice the lows less and the highs, when it's up, you're really, really up. So, I mean, I think that was a really good point you made. The other thing you said, Ross, and this is probably the best question of all, like why you're such a fucking genius, because you ask such good questions, is like, where are the trustworthy places to do it? Like, how do you know a good farm from a bad one? And I'd be curious to know just kind of like a little bit about what your experience is, because you're like starting to get into crypto for the first time in your life, and man, it's like it's overwhelming, right? Like there's just a lot of shit. There's so many blockchains and so many projects.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these places you can farm. Some are good, some are bad, and then inside of those, there's different farms that are going on, if I'm using the vocabulary right. And then I follow as many YouTube channels as I can possibly digest to learn about this. And this guy shared a stat about most of the money in DeFi is made in the first like 48 hours, and then people are back out. I'm like, I don't have time to guess when to hurry and jump out of this. I just want a good quality place that I can leave it for a long time.
Yeah.
So how do you pick which farm and where and know that it's legit?
Well, I'll show you my experience with that, and part of that comes from like I've made some mistakes along the way, just in case anybody's guessing. Like I've had the crypto term is a rug pull, where you put some money into a thing and then goes to zero real fast, and you're wrong, and you invest, I don't know, a couple grand, and then you end up with $0 later. So that that's always a possibility. So like one of the things I think it depends on your overall goals. Like I don't think there's a one size fits all. I would say, like, if you're at a situation in life where you have a bunch of wealth and you're trying to preserve it, I would treat that very differently. Like I would personally be like in only like really big, well-known kind of stable kind of coins, like the Bitcoins and the Ethereums and the big kind of things. If you're new to crypto and you're looking for like upside and you can afford to be wrong on a couple of projects, and you just like want to hit a home run, kind of like grand slam on one of them or two of them, then your risk tolerance is going to be a little higher. I'll show you just like a little bit on my screen. I'm just going to click the old screen share button. You guys are going to see the madness that is my brain. We got too many tabs open. But I'll tell you firstly, like what I've learned, like just from some of the mistakes I've made that I think like bad projects have is if they can't, like, for one, like, okay, so here's some of the projects. There's a gaming release, hidden gem, low MCAP, only tokens with registered company. Like me just reading this, like this is, so I'm in like a thing called crypto moonshots, but like I would not touch this with a 10-foot fucking pole personally, because it doesn't really have like a clear functionality, like what it's going to actually do. So like the chances of that, I mean, you make it right, and especially if you understand the gaming world, you got a better chance. But like, I don't understand the crypto gaming world, so for me, like that would be just like a no. Here's another one that I want to show you, and this is the biggest way I think people get screwed. Like this to me, like screams rug pull. Is it's live now. Right, create fiat crypto with fiat directly in your MetaMask, audit, KYC, 10% BTC report, staking, NFT. When it basically, like the pitch is you're going to make big returns, and there's no real explanation for how you're going to make the big returns. It's probably like a Ponzi scheme where I don't know if you guys know Bernie Madoff, but for like years, Bernie Madoff ran an investment company where whatever investors would invest, their returns, like, if you promised them 10% a year, were paid by new money. So when the new investors come in, they're actually paying the returns of the old ones. And so there's no real value in the fund. Like it's not really based on anything. And so as soon as the last person stops investing, the whole thing crashes and goes to zero. This to me looks like one of those deals, because there's nothing that really says to me there's like some underlying fundamental reason why this is valuable. There's another one like this. Okay, so the pitch is basically you're going to make 15 to 33% a month. That can sound really, really sexy, but if you make 15 to 33% of a coin that goes to zero, then then you're not going to be making a whole lot, right? And so angel nodes, heavenly yield processing nodes, generate passive income. Generally, like, it's not all that different than internet marketing. The crypto people in internet marketing, there's there's more in common. Like if I see an internet marketing thing that says like, you're going to get rich in your underwear with new secret Twitter method, makes $17,000 a month, pushing a button, like stay the fuck away from that as a general rule. And
Yeah.
so again, like this doesn't to me scream like anything other than rug pull. That's not to say like I wouldn't every now and then like gamble a little at the casino, but I'll tell you, like when I come across like potentially real projects, this is one I just came across the other day, and I was just asking in groups, like if you could only do one project, what would you do? And this was one of the ones they mentioned. It's called Platypus Finance, and it's on the Avalanche chain. And here's what real projects, at least in my mind, look like, is they can tell you like, here's some of the current problems of other stable swaps. There's bad user experience, liquidity fragmentation. I actually went through and read a little bit of their paper, and what they talked about is there's a problem in DeFi that if you're not used to, called impermanent laws, and that comes from the fact that like often when you're like, you know, financing a pool, the values of both tokens are fluctuating immensely, right? So it's not like you're doing some static thing, and you can lose exchanges in the middle. And so this whole thing is about reducing slippage, reducing like impermanent loss. Essentially, is that they said we figured out a better mathematical model. So I don't know if this Platypus Finance is like actually going to take off, and this is not my way of like shilling for anybody and saying like go buy this, but I'm intrigued when they start talking about problems in the marketplace and how they figured out a better way to do it, and some sort of like unique experience that they're bringing. There is a paper on it that I guess I can't find right now, but it was there maybe here. And they were talking about like, you know, just problems with the different impermanent loss and how they believe they've solved it. This is another one, and I only came across this because this is a friend of mine that owns this, named Nick Peterson, and he's created two decentralized exchanges, Dark Knight and Night Swap. One is for the Binance chain, and one is for the Phantom chain. And one of the things that he was talking about this is like a real DeFi project derives its value not from marketing. It derives its value from like utility. And so in his case, he talked about the different projects they're building off of it, how they're building different gaming projects on this platform, how they're doing some different NFT projects, and they're bringing all this new functionality. So again, like, do I know it's going to be successful? Of course not. I have no idea what the market's going to ultimately do, but I'm betting on the, you know, potential functionality. And usually, like, this is to me the big difference between like real projects and rug pulls is like if it's like generate passive income, you're gonna get rich, you'll make millions of dollars. Like usually that kind of shit is very rarely like real, for lack of a better term. And this one is like, again, it's like, hey, we think we figured out a better way to deal with the slippage problem on other exchanges. Like that potentially could be huge, right? Like if everybody else is losing money on decentralized finances as they move back and forth, and they figured out a better way to do it, you know, that could potentially be huge. And so you're because what you're really doing in DeFi is twofold. Is you're earning like a monthly residual, but the other thing is you're also like investing into the project itself. It'd be like if you bought $100,000 house and that house rose in value to $1 million, even if that house only paid you a 10% return per year, that would be better than a $100,000 house that fell to $25,000 and produced 100% return per year. So you want to like really kind of think about both of those things. I'm not saying like this is, you know, the perfect be all end all, but usually when I've made mistakes, the promises sounded something like this, like just basically generate a huge monthly return and no real reason for it. And usually when I've guessed right on projects, they're usually like of the form of like, hey, we've figured out some new functionality, we're building games, we're building utility, we're building things on it. Like if you think about Ethereum, for those of you guys who are kind of like new to crypto, like when Bitcoin first came out, obviously it was a game changer for like digitally storing wealth in the old days. Like if you had if you had $1 million in gold and say you wanted to go from America to the Cayman Islands, like how do you move $1 million worth of gold? Like you'd have to hire companies to move it. You'd have to store it. You'd have to get insurance. You'd have to pay taxes on it. Like there's a lot of different challenges that come up in the way. So Bitcoin kind of solved that problem, but it wasn't necessarily practical for day-to-day use. Like say you had, I don't know, like $100 a month insurance contract, like you're paying an insurance company. It's not easy to just set up like an automated $100 a month recurring. And so Ethereum solved that problem in a way with their introducing smart contracts. And obviously people have come around with like better contracts, but the real value of Ethereum comes from all the shit you can do on it. Like OpenSea, where you can make NFTs on it, you know, the smart contracts, like all these different like tools and functionality you get. And so that's what I look for more than anything. I don't know if that's necessarily helpful. And there's probably, I understand there's a lot to research in this, but I think more than anything, what we're looking for in DeFi is like a reason for the project to exist other than like, you'll make amazing fucking returns and that kind of internet marketing scammy stuff.
That makes sense. That helps.
Another thing too, I just want to go here. Corey said, how can you manage your way out of a down position with staking and or farming? Rather than selling, you can make a good return while holding and accumulating during a slow bear cycle. My specific situation is I hold a lot of DOT and Moon River, but I feel like I still lack some insights to be able to adequately assess risk and make decisions about where and how to stake or farm. I've thought about it a bit, and I think the part I'm still unsure about is when it comes to making pairs and the downside risk of the platform native tokens like Sushi, Fin, Pink, etc. I think it really kind of comes down to like a little bit, Corey, like another Utah man, a little bit about what we just talked about, right? Like it's like, you know, age-old investment principles is like never be all in on a single investment, especially in crypto. You're either going to go to like zero or a gazillion. Like, yeah, you hear stories of people who get rich from like, I bought Dogecoin at, I don't know, fractions of a penny. And then one day it was worth like, you know, 60 cents and, you know, you can like 60x your investment. But as a general rule, you can also lose 60% or you can lose it and it goes the other direction. You don't hear so much about those stories, but they're far, far more common. So I mean, that's the first thing is like, and then sometimes the other thing is like, if the project has like real functionality, you never quite know when that non-linear growth is going to happen. And so like, you know, like it takes a while for public opinion sometimes to catch on like with a real project. So if there's real like underlying reasons for those projects to exist, and to be honest, I'm not the best at like Polkadot. I own a little bit, but like I couldn't tell you what the fuck it does or why, you know, anything like that. So like, you know, just being real with you. But if there's underlying reasons why you believe the project is going to stay there, then I wouldn't just so quickly sell. But every now and then, if you realize like that's not the case, you just got to cut your losses. And it's sometimes hard in crypto. Like you can put $100,000 in something and then have 20,000. I mean, that really sucks when that happens, but it also like can go the other direction really, really quickly. And the cool thing about it is, you know, if you do it right, like you can in crypto, you can bet on 10 projects, be wrong 9 times, and that one have you be ahead on your whole platform. I experienced this like, you know, a little while ago when the first thing I did, I got a check like from a payment from a client of like $1,000, and I just put $100 on like 10 different tokens. That was like a little bit of losing my crypto virginity, and one of those was on Dogecoin. And I woke up one day and Dogecoin was like $3,000 or $4,000, and I was like, that can't be right. Like I only put $100 in it. There's no way I can have like, you know, 4 or 5. I forget the exact number. It was somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000, somewhere in that range. And I looked, and Elon Musk had tweeted like, "Go buy Dogecoin," and so everybody did. And it was very real and legitimate that it was just, you know, had 40, 50x. And the reason I say that is because even if all 9 other tokens I put $100 on at that time had gone to zero, I would still be up just from the one Dogecoin as a general rule. So you know, that's at least my kind of philosophy on it is like spread your risk around, but don't just like throw money at projects because they promise huge returns, because usually those ones end up at zero ultimately, because that's what they're worth. And look for things that like actually solve real world problems. Like for example, like some of the exchanges solve the problem by having like lower fees on transactions, or some can process smart contracts quicker, or some can like, you know, solve other issues in the marketplace, or others can be built upon, and you're looking for something that has like, for lack of a better term, like a reason to fucking exist. And those are the ones that are going to be along for the ride, but you never quite know when that asymmetric kind of jump is going to happen, or even if it ever happens at all. Like to give you an example, I have a friend who's really bullish on a coin called Telcoin. And the idea with Telcoin, which is not like a DeFi thing, it's just a cryptocurrency. But the idea with Telcoin is that it's the only token that the blockchain is built on SMS. So the entire internet could go down and Telcoin would still function. And it's being created, like one of the founders is involved, or used to be like the CEO of AT&T or something like that. So it has like a huge kind of like background in this kind of thing. And so, I don't know, I've got like a couple $100 of Telcoin, but it's one of those things that, could easily, I wake up one day and it's worth 10 grand, but I also could like, lose like $300 or $400 or whatever it is I put into it. And that's kind of like how I look at it. Like, like a lot of like high upside kind of bets, because if Telcoin, like for example, takes off because it's the only SMS kind of functionality, but who knows, it may take 2 or 3 years to actually get some real adoption. And I'm also aware that like could go to zero, right? It may never catch on. And so that's how I look at it. I think as a general rule, like if you're just getting into it, you want to be thinking about spreading it between 5 or 10 projects, whatever you're doing, and like never to be all in on a single bet. But when you start to get higher up the wealth ladder, like I have friends who, made 10 million from crypto. I think that's when you start like actually consolidating it. Like I have a friend who, Ross, a little bit, Tibby, you've heard of his stuff. He's big on just like, everything I buy is just so I can get more Bitcoin. Like that's his end game. I just want to have more Bitcoin. So any just kind of thoughts or questions or ideas or anything else you want to like, kind of share for you personally about, like, because I think your questions will be other people's questions as well.
Something you said that was a good light bulb moment for me, because we both happen to be marketing backgrounds. You were showing some of these coins. I got this one screams bad. And like looking at them like, hey, there's 2 exclamation points in this. Because we're in marketing, we're pretty good at sniffing out bull crap. And I'm glad to know that, because I'm looking around at stuff too. And I'm like, that just feels wrong. So it's glad to know the sniff test like that also works. So far, I'm trying to do that. I've got, a couple hundred here, a couple hundred here. I'm across about 4 or 5 places, and I'm just seeing kind of my learning money. It's an expensive seminar. Like, okay, I'm going to learn some of these things. The next thing is staking and farming. So that's going to be fun. And I like the idea from the videos you shared before of like, hey, all this is to spin off profits that will buy Bitcoin. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. So I like that idea too.
And you're absolutely right. Like I think 1% a day is a really good baseline. And when you start doing that, like, one of the ones I just showed, that Nick Peterson's Dark Knight Swap, is like actually getting like 2% a day on some of the stuff that I'm doing there. And one of the things with DeFi that's really, really hard to understand, because in traditional finance, like central banks are the only ones who can issue currency. So you don't get to create like any rules or things like that. But with crypto and DeFi in particular, is that like we get to create our own currencies and our own rules. And so there's ones that are just like fucking dog coins and, meme tokens that have no real like functionality. There's things that solve real problems. There's scams and a whole lot in between, and like, kind of all those different things. And all of those like, have kind of like, different risk factors. And I think like spreading that around and taking like intelligent bets. The other thing too that I think is really useful if you're new to this, that there's basically like 4 places I can tell where all the crypto news in the world moves through. Maybe I'm wrong, but like if you're interested in DeFi, I would suggest like what I've started to do is just join communities there and play the stiff sniff test, which is basically Twitter being one of them. There's a whole bunch of influencers and stuff on Twitter. I'll type it for you later because it looks like you want to write that down.
I'm gonna write them down. Exactly. Thank you.
Twitter being one of them. Twitter's probably the biggest one. I actually just created a Twitter account just to follow some damn DeFi stuff because I hate Twitter in general.
And my guy, I freaking hate. I have an account and I hate it. I'm like, please say there's another source because
Yeah.
sorting through a Twitter news feed makes me want to kill myself.
Telegram is another big place. There's lots of Telegram groups for specific things, like you can put in DeFi, and like, you know, with anything, like apply the sniff test that we mentioned. You know, it's no different.
Yeah.
Like if a software as like if we're in the internet marketing space and a piece of software says, you know, you'll 10x your software money overnight, just push a button and you'll get rich, double exclamation mark, you're probably going to ignore it.
Yeah.
If it says, hey, it makes this posting thing you do every day and a whole bunch easier, and it like consolidates this or whatever, like, you know, if there's a reason to it exist, like you can see, for example, you're a big fan of Go High Level. If it helps automate all these agency tasks you're doing, then you can see like, hey, there's a real functionality. I could see how that would, you know, be worth something. So I think that that same sniff test is true in the crypto space. The third place I see a lot of stuff is on Discord. I have a Discord, but I also hate all of them, actually, to be honest with you. But every now and then, you know, spending 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, just checking through, like, are there any DeFi projects? And like you, I like to shortcut the journey, and I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I ask questions like, hey, if there's only one project you could invest in this year, what would it be and why? And that helps me see at least what, you know, people are bullish on, and then I can check out, like, it's way easier for me to check out 5 or 10 recommended projects than to have to go through and read like 40 pages of notes. And then the other one is Reddit. Reddit has some good like DeFi and crypto groups as well.
Gotcha.
But those are like really the 4 places I think that you're going to get, like, you know, a DeFi education, and kind of what you're looking for, Ross, like you said, is like what we're all looking for is getting in on something on the ground floor before it's a thing, right? Before it's like, you know, taken off, because there's one right now, like Nick Peterson on his network has one called Guard. And I had 3 different people tell me, like, trust me, get this. It was at like 10 cents and I ignored them. It's now at like $1.40. So if you had listened, you'd already be up like 14x, but I didn't. But I still believe, because he's building it on the foundation of functionality and like real world use and building games and building NFTs and things like that, that it's going to be something. So I think even at 140, like, it's still worth buying. And so, you know, see where that goes in a year or 2. And then, you know, I found as well, like, if you share screen, I'll show you real quick. Let's just hit the old share screen button. So he's got a Guard and Binance token. So this is the other thing that with crypto that's hard to understand is, if you own, like, for example, like so I have some liquidity pairs here. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this has been going up just a little bit in the background, earning some residuals as you and I have been talking. That's one of the cool things about crypto, is if you do this right, and DeFi, you know, I'm rich, a little bit richer since we started this conversation. Like, it's gone up a couple of times. So it just went up like, you know, 0.006, right? Like, so a fractions of a penny, but a fractions of a penny have been made in the last few seconds here. And one of the things about this is, if you're in a liquidity pair between like A and B, and it produces, in this case, token C right here, is there's no rule that says you can't take token C and go buy token D, E, and F. And so the other thing is, like, let's say you mentioned you're getting 1% a day. There's no rule that says you can't take that 1% a day you're earning and reinvest it into something else that in itself earns 1% a day, and reinvest that into something else that produces 1% a day. So when you understand that, like, especially if you think like crypto in terms of like 3 to 5 years, like, you can compound things that compound. So I was looking at this today because so the token I mentioned is Guard. The BUSD is I believe a Binance Smart Chain. I think that's what that is. But I already own some Guard, and it's just sitting there. So I'm like, I might as well get some Binance too, and then earning residuals here because I'm sitting with the token anyway, right? And of course, those residuals can be used to buy something else. They can be used to buy Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin can be staked, or it can buy Ethereum, and that can be staked. So that's the other thing with DeFi, is your residuals can be reinvested into things that make residuals, and those residuals can be reinvested in things that make residuals, and those residuals can be reinvested in things that make residuals. When you understand the compound effect, and you can think like 3-5 years out of just like, what is 1% a day just endlessly compounding for 3 to 5 years, Even with some mistakes in there, you'll come out like just massively ahead.
Yeah. I'll have to look at that one too. So you give Night Swap a thumbs up. That's a legit place to be.
Yeah, if I would probably, this one, just like looking at the website, would not have like jumped into it, but like knowing the guy personally and knowing what he's putting together and stuff. So this one's a little bit of an exception. But what I mean, I typically look for, like, does it actually do something? So I'll show you one that we're working on right now. This is an actual one of my own projects that I'm part of the launch for. And this was created by some friends of mine. And the idea behind it, it's called Dowser. And the idea with Dowser, obviously it's a DAO for those of you guys who know the term, but basically everybody's asking the same question, is like, how do you find out about hot NFT projects before they moon, basically? Because you got to get in really early, but that problem is getting more and more challenging because, like, there's NFTs on Ethereum, there's NFTs on Solana, there's NFTs on Avalanche, there's NFTs on Cardano, there's NFTs on Phantom, there's NFTs on Near, on BNB, Polygon, and also known as Matic. And each of those has thousands of NFT projects, and each of those NFT projects has thousands of NFTs in there. Like, how in the fucking world do you stay on top of all that? And we've tried to create like a consolidated network, a single place where you can have like one resource of information to basically get up to speed on what the top NFT projects are in a minute. And you know, those are the kind of things that we look for. And again, like, you know, this may, like with all things crypto, turn out to be worth zero, but we're attempting to solve a real world problem which comes up, which is like nobody knows where to find out about this. And there's some tools that help with the research, but there isn't like a single comprehensive community, at least what we can tell, where you can get up to speed on the NFT market in about, you know, 60 seconds instead of having to read 18,000 Telegram and Discord and Twitter and all that kind of things.
Yeah.
Well, my man, I don't know if I got any more here. Do you got any other like intelligent questions for our people here?
No, I think from here, I can research and paper trade all day, but until I just go drop $100 in something, I don't take it serious. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go pick. Maybe I'll start looking on Night Swap and pick one, get in there, because when my money's in it, I watch it close and I'm like, okay, this is how this is good, bad, ugly, and make it happen.
Yeah, and like you said, there's 1% a day. You can actually, like, at least, you know, and I would never tell anybody to put all this and everything, but Night Swap is probably at like 2% a day right now. As you can see, it's like literally counting up as we're talking. Like, that never gets old. Just watch it, you know.
Yeah.
The old cashola come in while you're not doing anything. I also think, by the way, for people like us, that it really makes agency work go a lot farther because, you know, like, we're busy generating client income and you know, running projects and managing campaigns. Like, we don't always have time to be sitting around watching crypto portfolios. It's nice to know that like 1% is happening in the background while you, you know, essentially aren't doing dick fuck all. Right? That's the whole idea is. And then the other thing is, you don't have to guess the market. The one thing I would also add is, like, I think is a useful thing, and I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but when you're like, a lot of times what ends up happening is when you notice a token is suddenly like up a lot, what people do is they go, holy shit, I'm like up. And then they're afraid to sell because they'll go like, well, what if it goes up even more? Like, how stupid
I don't want to miss the top. Yeah.
Like, you know, like, because there's that person who probably bought Bitcoin at 80 cents, saw it at like $9 and said, okay, I'm selling all this shit. But I think as a general rule in crypto, like, when you're ahead, like, take some profits. And I think that one of the best ways to de-risk it is, like, let's say you invested, for the sake of easy numbers, $100 into Dark Knight Swap, and then Dark Knight Swap has generated $100 in returns, is selling those $100 in returns, because now essentially your risk is zero, right? Because if you generated $100 in returns, you still own the original $100 that's, you know, generating returns. So it's obviously, this is not financial advice and you guys should do what you do. I'm just telling you my personal experience is, like, when you're ahead, take some profits, even if like you risk missing the top, because as a general rule, if you consistently come out ahead, it's more about like compounding little wins than big wins. You'll have big wins along the way, but compounding little wins, like you said, I'd much rather just watch this count pennies for me in the background than I would try and like, you know, hit a moonshot grand slam home run, which does happen. But to me, it's just way cooler just to know that like in 3 to 5 years, it's just compounding and you know, you almost can't lose from that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Frankie. This is super helpful.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope we helped answer some questions for the rest of you guys. I think I'm going to turn this into a little YouTube channel, and you're the first one on here. So thank you for video number 1, my man.
Happy to be here.
All right. Take care, guys.